What's up, everybody? So last week, a new version of Wrecking Crew, Demolishing the Case Against Steven Avery by Jon Ferrick was released. It is the 5-year anniversary edition of the book. If you read the original version, even if you didn't read the original version of Wrecking Crew, I highly recommend reading Wrecking Crew. But if you read the original version of Wrecking Crew, I highly recommend getting this version because it has all kinds of new information in it, as well as 2 new interviews, one with Kathleen Zellner and one with Steven Avery. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going over both of those interviews. Yesterday's video, I did Kathleen Zellner's interview, and today I'm doing Steven Avery's interview, but it is just a Cliff Notes version of those interviews. If you want the full thing, make sure you pick up the book. You can get it on Amazon, that's where I got my copy, and if you are at all interested in the case against Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey, I highly recommend getting this book by Jon Ferrick. It is a tremendous read and filled with all kinds of information. And if you never read Wrecking Crew before, it will blow your mind, the information that is in this book. Get it, read it, enjoy it. It is a tremendous read. Okay, so this interview that Kathleen Zellner did with Steven Avery took place on November the 10th, 2023. So as of me making this video, it is less than 1 month ago. So it is a brand new interview that, now I'm reading this exactly how it was written, and it was written exactly how Steven Avery speaks. So it might sound a little different than what you're used to. So this is Steven Avery talking about the judge. Well, it was about time. Get rid of her. Well, because I wrote to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, I wrote to her boss to kind of get rid of her. And Kathleen explains what actually happened to Steven Avery. Actually, the way this happened was she made a motion to the court to be removed from the case. So they didn't remove her. She removed herself. I don't know if you were aware of that. It didn't have anything to do with what we tried to do because we filed formal motions a couple of years ago, but there wasn't any legal way to have her removed. I mean, people complain about judges all the time, but what she did was remove herself, so she's off the case. What do you think about having a new judge? Steven Avery replies with, well, a lot better. Terrific. Better than her. I don't think she should be on the bench. If she can't follow the law, then she don't need to be on there. Kathleen Zellner asked Steven Avery's thoughts on the new judge. Well, I know he's 6 months on the bench. He worked for the public defender's office and some on the police department, but that's all I know. Kathleen Zellner asks Steven Avery if she thinks the new judge is going to be more well-balanced because he's worked on both sides. Steven Avery replies with, yeah, it's probably a little better because he's coming into it a new set of eyes. Kathleen Zellner states that she feels optimistic about having a new judge. Then they start talking about Bobby Dassey. Kathleen Zellner talks about the witness that seen Bobby Dassey with the RAV4. Asks what Steven Avery thinks the effect that should have on the case. Steven Avery states, that kind of proves he got the car. Saying that I'm right, that I got nothing to do with it. He does. It's all coming back to him and the computer, that he was sick on the computer. All of that is a factor. Kathleen Zellner then asks, do you think that Bobby Dassey was interested in Teresa Halbach? Steven Avery states, well, most of the time he was watching her. Every time she came, Bobby Dassey would always say something like, hey, I see your girlfriend came. He knew every time that she was going to come out. When she came out, Bobby Dassey was always there looking out the window. So he was watching her, Kathleen Zellner asks. Steven Avery replies with, yeah. Kathleen Zellner asks about how Bobby Dassey acted when Andrew Colburn visited the Selfridge yard within the days after Teresa Halbach went missing. Steven Avery states he was different. He felt nervous with Mike O and all that. Bobby Dassey was mostly nervous. Then when we wanted to go to Menards, I'm not entirely sure if that's how you say that, but when he wanted to go to Menards, But when we wanted to go to Menards, he had something else to do. But then when I went down into the pit with the other ones, when Chucky seen the taillights or headlights, he wanted to come with me. Now all of the other times he didn't want to come, he was busy, but now he made sure he wanted to come. I'll come with you, I'll come with you. Kathleen Zellner asks, did he know your finger was bleeding? Steven Avery states that he did. Kathleen Zellner asks about when Steven Avery and his brother Chuck left the salvage yard to go to Menards. Steven Avery states, well, I seen taillights back behind me, and I said, oh, I seen taillights. I told Chuck. Then he asked me, do you want me to turn around and look? Steven Avery replied with, I don't know. Then we got a little bit up the road, I think, and then I said, yeah, let's turn around, let's go back. So then he turned the flatbed around and we went back and I looked all over and I didn't see nothing. Kathleen Zellner then asks Steven Avery if he thought a vehicle had just left his trailer. Steven Avery states, yeah, we just left from there. I know there was nothing there. There were no cars moving. So the only one I think that was there was Bobby. Steven Avery states that at the time it didn't look like anyone had tried to get into his trailer, but later when looking at evidence photographs, he noticed pry bar marks on his door. Kathleen Zellner asks Steven Avery about Bobby Dassey's relationship with Mike O. Steven Avery states, I know they were pretty close. They always hung out with each other. They were like two peas in a pod. Kathleen Zellner asks about the conversation where they were trying to testify against Steven Avery after Teresa Halbach disappeared. Steven Avery states, well, they walked up to me and I don't know where I was, by Barb's van or something, somewhere in that area, and they just made a comment. You got her in the bedroom or closet or something? Kathleen Zellner asks, when they tried to testify, did you know they were lying about the conversation, the date? Steven Avery says, yeah. Kathleen Zellner asks Steven Avery what he thought when he saw Bobby Dassey testify at trial and if he was lying. Steven Avery states, when he got nerves, and I don't know, he tried to pin everything on me. He lies about everything. Sometimes I let him use my Cadillac and my Blazer to take it to school, and then he lied about that because he would do donuts in it, he would squawk the tires, and then he said he never did it. And then I hear from everyone else that he did, and back in the salvage yard, he would take stereos and radios out of the cars and sell it to people in the school. Kathleen Zellner asks about Bobby Dassey and the computer and if he used it a lot. Steven Avery said, well, pretty much, but then Barb tried to get somebody in because I don't know, she was having problems with it, and that's when it was in Bobby's room. She had a couple of people come over to try and fix it, and they tried to get stuff off it or something. Steven Avery mentions how she tried to get Brad Dassey to delete items off the computer. Kathleen Zellner asks about the relationship between Brendan Dassey and his brother Bobby. Steven Avery states, well, it was kind of rough. Brendan would do all his schoolwork, and then Bobby would come home and hit him on the side of the head and go out the door. He was a mean guy. He picked on Brendan all of the time. Kathleen Zellner asks Steven Avery about Bobby Dassey saying Teresa Halbach went to Steven Avery's trailer that day. Steven Avery said she didn't come to the trailer that day, and he doesn't think that you can even see his front door from Barb's house. Kathleen Zellner asks if Steven Avery thinks Bobby Dassey killed Teresa Halbach. Steven Avery states, oh yeah, might say 100%, and then there are other people involved like Mike O, maybe Scott Tadek. I don't know. Scott was there that day. He was on Barb's property talking to Bobby sometime around noon, and I knew Barb wasn't home, so I was wondering why he is out there when Barb ain't here, and then I seen him talking to Bobby. Kathleen Zellner states Scott lied at the trial and talks about how Bobby Dassey and Scott Tadek said they drove by each other at exactly 3 p.m. Steven Avery states, yeah, I think that was all a lie, because if they were by Fisherville Road and Jambo Creek Road, their cell phones would have pinned off the Mishicot Towers, not the other way, so that's all a lie. Kathleen Zellner asks about the timing of Scott Tadek and Barb's marriage and if he thinks it had to do with the trial. Steven Avery says he thinks so. I would say so, because if they get married, then the husband and wife don't have to testify against each other. Kathleen Zellner asks Steven Avery about Brendan Dassey. I don't know. That's all up to him. I don't know if he's guilty or if he's innocent or if he helped Bobby or not. I don't know. I don't know if they put her in that blue trailer or what. He come up with a story for a reason. I don't know why. Kathleen Zellner states, so you think that Brendan Dassey lied about what happened and that the person he was talking about was actually Bobby Dassey and not Steven Avery. Steven Avery says, yeah, that was the blue trailer and that's why they got rid of it. Now, up until recently, I didn't know much about this blue trailer, and then I started seeing, within the last year or so I think, that I started seeing posts about this blue trailer. So this is something I'm definitely going to look more into, especially since it was brought up in the new interview in this book. I didn't realize there was another trailer that could have been possibly involved with this crime. So it's definitely interesting and definitely something I'm going to look more into. Steven Avery states, yeah, and that trailer was the blue trailer and that's why they got rid of it. Kathleen Zellner asks where the blue trailer was kept. Steven Avery states it was right beside the road coming down to me, right before Barb's house. Now, if this blue trailer is indeed involved in the crime, it would make a lot of sense of why no evidence was found in Steven Avery's trailer, because everything happened in the blue trailer, and that is why someone destroyed the blue trailer, is to get rid of all of that evidence. Kathleen Zellner asks when the blue trailer was destroyed. Steven Avery states, I don't know. All I know is that Earl moved it down in the pit and then they put up a fence. After that, I couldn't tell you. Whenever they put up the fence, they took it out there and then they destroyed it. And then they destroyed Bobby's Blazer. The Blazer was the vehicle that Bobby Dassey was driving the day Teresa Halbach disappeared. Steven Avery thinks that Chuck or Earl destroyed the Blazer because Bobby only had it a month. So he thinks that that Teresa Halbach could have possibly been in that Blazer, or there was evidence in that Blazer connecting Bobby Dassey to the crime, and that is why they destroyed the Blazer after Bobby only having it for a month. Steven Avery states they crushed Barb's vehicles as well, including the van that she was selling. They wanted to make sure that there was no evidence to be found nowhere. Steven Avery states at first he didn't think that Barb knew about what happened, but after that, he states, yeah, they all knew. Kathleen Zellner brings up the fact that none of the Dasseys or anybody else for that matter, have explained how Teresa Halbach's bones ended up in the Dassey burn barrel. Kathleen Zellner states that Barb once put on Facebook that Bobby Dassey told her that he never saw Teresa Halbach walk towards Steven Avery's trailer. Now, there's a bunch of people out there with all of this stuff, with screenshots and information about this, and I have asked if anybody has the screenshot of that. So if somebody does come up with it, I will definitely show it to you and let you know all about it. Steven Avery states that she also put on Facebook that Bobby Dassey told her that Teresa Halbach actually left Steven Avery's property. Steven Avery talks about how he thinks they should give him a new trial and let the jury decide. Avery states he doesn't want to see what happened to him happen to somebody else. There's got to be consequences for what happened to him. States that he would like to see the people involved framing him to go to prison. States that he would like to see Bobby Dassey arrested and get charged with murder. Kathleen Zellner states that there was no one even questioning that Bobby Dassey had Teresa Halbach's RAV4. Steven Avery states he's sick of doing time for something he didn't do. So that's the interview. That's an explosive, blockbuster interview that Kathleen Zellner conducted with Steven Avery. So much incredible information coming directly from Steven Avery in this interview. There's a couple of things I want to go over in other videos that I'm going to do, but man, what a lot of information being brought out in this interview by Kathleen Zellner. I want to thank John Farrick for putting this book out with all of this new information in it. Again, get it on Amazon. It is a tremendous read. I definitely recommend picking it up. But what do you think? What do you think of this interview? And what do you think of the things that Steven Avery had to say? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.